What was once a beacon of black success was eventually turned into rubble and ashes. From May 31st to June 1st of 1921, the community that was known as Black Wall Street, a section of Tulsa, Oklahoma, mostly in the Greenwood and Archer Street district, was burned down by a mob of angry whites on the basis of a false accusation. But before that, this community was an example of how African Americans could find their own way in a segregated society. This was a community filled with black businesses and black lawyers and doctors. Just the epitome of what black power could really mean. And 105 years ago today, it wasn't just buildings that were burned down, it was a part of history that was burned down. And not just a part of history, over 300 people were killed in that rampage. One of the only buildings that was left standing was the Vernon AME Church. 5 years ago, to commemorate the 100-year anniversary of Black Wall Street burning down, I made a video talking about the story of how Black Wall Street was founded and about how it was destroyed, which is the video that you're about to watch right now. So if this is your first time learning about this, ladies and gentlemen, the story of Black Wall Street. So Black Wall Street was this area in Tulsa, Oklahoma, specifically in the Greenwood district, that housed hundreds of black-owned businesses. It was founded by a man named O.W. Gurley. He moved to Tulsa in 1906 and bought 40 acres of land, and he only sold it to black settlers. Initially, he established himself 80 miles west of Tulsa, where he claimed a plot of land, was a principal of a local school, and ran a successful general store for more than a decade. Gurley had a vision to create a community that was for black people and by black people. And with Greenwood, he accomplished just that. He loaned money to several other black entrepreneurs who were looking to start their own businesses. Some examples of the black-owned businesses that existed in Greenwood were the Stratford Hotel, that was owned by a man named J.B. Stratford, who was one of Gurley's early business partners. Then there were John and Lula Williams. They owned a candy shop and built Dreamland Theater, which could seat about 750 people. Can't forget about Andrew Smith, man. He was a lawyer who founded and ran the Tulsa Star, which is one of the area's most successful black-owned newspapers. Because of segregation, African Americans in the area could not go to the whiter parts of Tulsa, and so they went to Greenwood to engage in business. And by 1921, it was one of the wealthiest black areas in the United States of America. I mean, they even had their own hospital and public library. Some historians say the community was so self-sustaining that it's estimated that every dollar that was spent in the district circulated within the neighborhood and its businesses about 36 times. It got its nickname Black Wall Street from Booker T. Washington. Now, even though they had a lot of black-owned businesses, doesn't mean there was never any poverty there. Some people still were poor and lived in shacks. But despite that, it still became an area that many black residents moved to from the deep south to escape the violent racism that was going on down there. But while Black Wall Street was self-sustaining, it was literally only 2 blocks away from the white neighborhoods, which only added to the tension. And on May 30th, 1921, the tension would begin to reach a boiling point, because on that day, 19-year-old Dick Rowland, a shoe shiner employed at the Main Street Shine Parlor, entered the only elevator that was available at the nearby Drexel building, which was located at 319 South Main Street. He went there to use the top floor restroom. The only problem? Rowland was black, and that restroom was not available to black people. But this wouldn't be his only issue that day. When he got to the elevator, he encountered Sarah Page, a 17-year-old white elevator operator who was on duty. And if you know anything about history, a black man and a white woman together at that time could equal disaster. At some point, a clerk at a clothing store named Renberg's heard a scream from the elevator and saw Rowland running out. When he went over to Paige, her dress was torn, and thinking she had been assaulted, he called the authorities. It's not known exactly what happened, but one explanation states that Rowland had tripped as he got onto the elevator, and in trying to catch his fall, grabbed onto Paige and accidentally ripped her dress. Despite that, Rowland was terrified, and he had every reason to be. As I mentioned earlier, Greenwood was only 2 blocks away from the white areas of Tulsa. That next morning, Henry Carmichael, a white detective, and Henry C. Pack, a black patrolman, arrested Rowland. Tensions were already rising high. They'll rise even higher when the Tulsa Tribune, one of two white-owned newspapers published in Tulsa, broke the story with a headline that read, "Nabbed Negro for attacking girl in the elevator." Now this story went out at 3 p.m. that day. Shortly after that, there was talk of a potential lynching. At 7:30 p.m. that day, several hundred white residents assembled outside the courthouse. In response to this, some of Greenwood's residents armed themselves and went to the courthouse in order to protect Rowland. This caused the more than 1,000 whites who were already at the courthouse to go back home and grab their guns. The tensions kept escalating and escalating until at some point, shot went off and all hell began to break loose. That night, there were shootouts on both sides. And by early in the morning, June 1st, the fire started. Some of the residents did what they could to defend themselves. Others fled to avoid the violence. By 4 a.m., it's said that about 24 black-owned businesses had been set on fire. An hour later, the violence continued. Shootings, fires, until eventually, all the black residents began to retreat from Greenwood. And as the residents fled, the white rioters went on a rampage, looting businesses, destroying buildings. It's even said that airplanes were carrying white assailants who were firing rifles and dropping firebombs on buildings and the fleeing families. The district, which once stood as a beacon for black success, was no more. It's estimated that, according to today's numbers, the rioters caused about $33 million worth of damage. And what's crazy is the white rioters did all this because of the accusations against Dick Rowland, who, months later, had his case dismissed. But luckily in the fire, not everything was destroyed. Vernon AME Church is the only building from that time that's left standing today. And just like that church, the memory of Black Wall Street still lives on. So thank you so much for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned about this story of this community. And I hope it inspires you if you're a business owner or someone trying to be a business owner, particularly for African Americans, but really for anybody. I think the story of Black Wall Street can inspire us all because it shows that with enough working together, we can build our own things and be self-sustaining. As always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video. Thank you for watching, and God bless.